Welcome, viewers and listeners, to the Health Revolution, the program that shows you how to have a life of vibrant well-being. In a world full of noisy health trends, we bring you clarity. In a sea of fads, we reveal the science-backed strategies that truly work. We explore physical strength, emotional resilience, and mental mastery. These are the keys to an enriched life. Join us for inspiring interviews with champions who conquered life's health challenges, fueling your journey. Are you ready to unlock your potential? To live with vitality and purpose? Then join the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, health and fitness expert, speaker, and a mom who understands. Let's embark on this transformative quest. Together, we're about to change the game, starting now. The information provided in this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Viewers should use their own discretion and consult with a healthcare professional for personalized guidance and recommendations. Welcome to the Health Revolution. We are excited that you are joining us today. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, and no matter which way you are tuning into us, please do not forget to hit the subscribe button because we want to stay connected to you. Also, as we are rolling in this episode, please remember that we have a little tab at the bottom of your screen. We will have some important show notes regarding today's episode. Speaking of today's episode, what does it mean to have ageless vitality? And what does it mean to have the courage as we are entering later chapters of our years? Does this mean that life is over and we should just ride into the sunset? Or does it mean that there's a different way there's a strategy to optimize our health? Our guest today is someone who we get to have that conversation and a deeper dive into how to have best practices as we continue to rise in each new chapter as we get older. Take a look at this video. Meet Sharon Rolph, a beacon of inspiration and the queen of courage at 76. For years, Sharon felt invisible, questioning her productivity after retirement. But today, she stands as a testament to the power of transformation, igniting her life with newfound purpose and energy. As an author, podcast guest, and a captivating influencer on Instagram, Sharon embodies what it means to truly sparkle in the golden years. Her journey to discovering her spark has now become a pathway she shares with the world, helping others find meaning and vibrancy outside the conventional bounds of work. Sharon is the ideal guide for newly retired singles looking to live a life filled with wisdom, confidence, and impactful experiences without the burden of feeling like a nuisance to friends and family. Her mental strength, coupled with a deep-rooted faith, has not only contributed to her healthy lifestyle, but also her youthful appearance and spirited enthusiasm. And today, we get to tap into how she does it. Sharon Rolph, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Adrian. This is going to be good.
Yes, and we talked about in the intro. It was important to highlight that spark and what all that means. How did you find, or what was it that? When was the first time you knew you needed to find your spark after retirement?
Well, I worked for a director for a Seagulls convention here in the Seattle area, and he had cautioned me. He didn't tell me his story behind it, but Sharon, he says, when you finish a big project, have something else to go to. And retirement is something else to go to, believe me. And that I was working for Boeing at the time, and January 1, here comes an email in my box for becoming cooperating with our community college here to do coaching. And it took me a couple of days to realize that coaching would be a natural next step to my behavioral science and empowerment facilitator job. And it seemed like it was just a good match. And it was when I first started the coaching class, they taught us how to define our essence. They called it an essence statement. And when we finished that and we were sharing it with the audience or the rest of the classmates, as it became my turn to share mine, I'd never been asked to share my soul before, is what it felt like. And people were often kind of choking up as they read their essence statement. It was so powerful. And defining our soul, who teaches that?
And, so when you talk about so that was that moment of the spark, I've got to do more. I've got to tap into more. When did you realize that retirement is something you were going to redefine? Like at that moment when you were able to learn more about you and your talents, how did you envision going forward in retirement at that point?
Well, it was kind of baby steps, but let me mention that I had heard a myth at Boeing that says when you retire, you're dead in 3 years. That felt like a stab in my heart. And so that was kind of brewing in the background. But I had recently taken a profile. One of my friends, MCOR, Taylor Johnson, I think maybe does it. And they'd call me an influencer. Are you sure? But I started kind of on the back burner, kind of thinking about maybe I could be an influencer. And that's when I started taking baby steps. And maybe that's true. And so I started being open to doing podcasts. So I think that kind of answers your question. And podcast, a book and all that. Yeah.
And the term influencer obviously has taken off in these last couple of years. And I'm curious to get your stance on embarking on this journey, because social media, we know historically, there's certain generations that tend to really embrace it. So we have Gen Z, we have millennials, even Gen Xers. And then as we get into older generations, it's not as popular as, say, like Gen Zers. And tell me, what's been the take so far that this journey, being a senior influencer, representing your space, knowing that many baby boomers are just, it doesn't look as populous as Gen Z on social media.
Yeah, I've heard that there's about around 50% on social media. And I can name a number of my classmates that I see maybe once a quarter on Facebook. So I've struggled with where to find my ideal niche boomers. And yet that hasn't stopped me. And there's a certain amount of, you're supposed to do it this way. This works. And I'm kind of been holding back a little bit because I feel a certain amount of calling in my heart to do what I'm here to do. And I knew it wasn't the ideal time. I knew the culture needed to change, but I'm the one that stops me. And I kept just doing it the way that felt comfortable to me. And yes, there's times I'm not doing it that way. Maybe that's why I don't have that much traffic yet, but the time is changing. There's starting to be a hunger for who am I really? How do I get to know myself? And I think that when you find your essence or inner spark, it's like heaven on earth. You feel so comfortable with it that it every day. In fact, when I doubted myself, I put a wall hanging here of my essence. And one day I visited it 3 different times. I started realizing that when I lived from my core, what matters to me every day feels right.
Why do you think it's not something, and this is for our viewers who are, who are obviously you're 76, and there are viewers who are watching that are younger. What makes it, what are some things that you noticed about your journey that you needed to pay attention to as you were entering your 70s?
Well, the one thing, well, see, I was going to mention loneliness, but I just realized that last year. But there's a big point to that. Throughout my career, deep down in my gut, I felt invisible. A lot of people, older and younger, may feel invisible. Now, mine stemmed from a trauma, and as I was growing up, I wanted to be invisible. Lots of people, there's a term now called ACE, advanced childhood trauma or experiences. Yeah, the E is experiences. And I bet there's a lot of people on this earth that has had traumatic experiences. And you had to close down because it was, in fact, a safety thing for you. So, as I, having read Vivek Murthy's book, Together, yeah, it's called Together, but it's on loneliness. And he said in that book, if you feel invisible, it's a type of loneliness. Really? I bragged on myself for having never had to deal with loneliness, even though I'm single all these years. That's not a problem for me. Well, I got my eyes open when I read that book, and now I realize how much of a hunger there is in society for being seen and heard. I've always felt it was important to be heard, but
part of the culture is that, and let's be honest, with each new generation, there has been a much more acceptance to sort through and navigate through and deal with issues that are traumatizing, or that maybe that they're things that weren't handled great growing up. So that factually speaking, wouldn't you say that baby boomers, there's that tendency to, that growing up, there wasn't a, let's sort this out, let's talk about this. There's almost like this was not something that you did. So if you feel like this definitely resonated with your personal experience, at what point did you have the courage to address it and acknowledge that, so that you could heal and grow?
Powerful question. Yeah. It happened kind of a miracle. I call it synchronicity, that you're in the right place at the right time. I had just finished a elective in the master's program that I enjoyed so much. It seems like it might have been on values. And when I turned in my paper, my instructor said, I've never had in 30 years somebody write a paper on values. But he said, well, if you like this course, then you should check out in the office. I happened to be on campus. I don't know if I was picking up my grades or what, but we were walking opposite directions in the sidewalk. And he said, check out this a master's whole program. And I did that very same day. And if I hadn't been in the behavioral science program at the college, I would have never had a chance to face that. There wasn't coaching, and there was a certain amount of counseling, I guess, but until I turned about 38 or 40, which is a transition kind of period where we're more willing to deal with the pain of our past, they made me face that, and in fact paid for my first 2 counseling sessions. And I had to tell them that I was worth their investment in me. So through going through that program and seeing the person I had become, and the background of it, then that's what caused me to face having a college program.
And I love how you talked about the willingness to learn and to grow. And how much of what patterns have you seen in your generation, being 76? Is it a struggle? Are you seeing more of a hunger of those with baby boomers who are thinking, you know what, I wonder, am I allowed to envision more for me? I'm not done yet. I'm not quite through with life. What have you noticed in terms of patterns?
Well, I'd actually like to answer that by more of what my hunger for the retirees is, that all this free time is untapped potential. Potential. How are you going to live your full potential? Excuse me. One of the signs of wall hangings at work was, if one has a talent and doesn't use it, one has failed. If one has a talent and only partially uses your talent, you have partially failed. But if one has a talent and finds somehow to use the whole of it, you've gloriously succeeded, and won a satisfaction few people ever know. So that was my why. Potential has been hot for me since I was a teenager. And not only mine, but yours too, Adriana. Let's bring our best to life. So having learned my essence, that was my best. And I started a meetup group, and every now and then I'd ask them the question, how do you know when you're living your best? They kind of glaze over. It goes over their head. But I'm starting to hear a new trend of businesses are starting to pay attention to how the leadership is either toxic or embracing safety for the behavior of their people. And that's the start of a culture change, where we start to honor the best that we have, and that others see it and keep tugging on that. So the trend, I'm here to broadcast over podcasts to the boomers. What if they're not on social media? Okay, I'm going to talk to you through Adriana's program.
Yes, please. One thing that strikes me is that, and I definitely am interested in your input on this, is that with retirement, that's almost like a passage into a chapter that it's like so clearly defined, like either, you have years of work and service in whatever industry underneath your belt, and now you cross over and it's totally different. So do you feel like there is unfair emphasis on the role somebody plays, that they're conditioned, that they're just that role, and then entering retirement, it becomes more of a shock, like maybe jumping into cold water or something like that?
Yeah, the correlation I play with that is that we're paid to do a lot of thinking or a lot of brawn, but our jobs don't often let us live from our heart and what's calling our spirit. So I think artists, singers, actors, painters, they can tap in and share their heart through their talent. But, a CPA, I don't think so. A trucker, I don't think so. So the shock is that now we get to live from our heart. Nobody told us that. How come you kept that a secret? And it's, I'm out to change that. That in retirement, it's time to shine. And I just got through writing a course last week on volunteerism, and what a difference because that helps open our heart. My mom always told us that that when you help somebody else, bless somebody else, that you get blessed too. And I recently saw a big feeling good sign, and that's what retirement does. I mean, what volunteerism does for you.
Well, obviously that's a clear sign of courage. And I want to talk about what courage means and the different definitions of courage as it applies to you. But first, we're going to take a commercial break. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Hello, Wellness Warriors. Welcome back to Fit Bites with Adriana. Today, I've got a life hack that's simple, yet incredibly effective for boosting your immune system. Hydration. Now, you might be surprised to learn that when we start catching a cold or feeling under the weather, our water intake often drops. But here's the thing. Staying hydrated is crucial for our immune system's ability to function at its best. Water helps to transport nutrients and oxygens to your cells, flushes out toxins, and keeps your mucous membranes moist, which can reduce the chances of infections. It's like giving your body's defense system the support it needs to fight off invaders. So, how much water should you drink? For bare minimum, aim for at least 8 glasses a day, but listen to your body. If you're feeling unwell, you want to increase your water intake to help your body recover faster. I definitely do that when I'm feeling a little under the weather. And if plain water isn't your style, try adding a slice of lemon, cucumber, or some berries for a flavor boost. Herbal teas and coconut water are also great to stay hydrated. Now remember, this life hack is not just for when you're feeling sick. Make hydration a part of your daily routine to keep your immune system strong all year round. Now stay tuned for more Fit Bites, and here's to staying hydrated and healthy. Welcome back to the Health Revolution. My guest today, Sharon Rolph. She is an author. She's also a senior influencer, retirement and spark coach. And we are talking about that level of vitality to embrace as we get older, after retirement and beyond. And Sharon, one thing that I do want to dive into is you became an author, and your first book is, your book is The Queen of Courage. And I want us to talk about that. Take us through when you decided this was something you were going to do. And of course, we're going to dive into the book right now.
Well, Queen of Courage is more my Instagram title, handle, I guess you'd call it. But when I was doing podcasts, I made over 50 podcasts, and I decided that one of the last ones I did, I wanted to talk about courage. And I must have asked a dozen people who they knew that was courageous, and I wasn't getting any answers. there's a problem here. And so I did find a gentleman that was super interesting. He was a pastor and he started the senior center national practice of having senior centers. He's also a guide on trains for telling people what we're passing. He was totally interesting, but he's also a pastor. And he talked about courage for me in my podcast. But then I realized how many people need courage because life is so challenging. And I was then asked to be ESL, English and Second Language group in Brazil, wanted me to come on, invited me to talk about anything I wanted to talk about. Okay, I'm going to talk about courage. And I talked about courage to be, courage to do, and courage to have. And as I made those notes and embellished them, did research on them, I then embraced the Queen of Courage. Well, it's Forbes Riley that actually was calling various people, what do people know you for? And so that's when it stuck, is that I'm the Queen of Courage, and I put it into my pitch.
And what makes it hard to embrace courage in retirement? Is it just lack of, and from your book, is it from lack of stimulus, that there's, the to-dos, the being able to have daily tasks that challenge? Is it that you have so much time on your hands, or for some that you just kind of wait for something to trigger you? Or what does that look like? And what makes it so hard to have courage in retirement?
That's a big topic. Wow. One, you're probably not expected to do as much. And in all truth, our body is changing. I mean, my hair is getting thin and fine. I've always had glorious hair and was kind of proud of it. But man, lately it's like, when is it going to stop changing? Actually, I'm trying to have this mental attitude that I'm growing new hair. But so the physical changes, our hearing, our balance, all that, that's real. It hasn't affected me as much in attitude about aging because I look so much younger than people. I'm often expected to be 15 years younger even before I retired. But the expectations and I was coming back from vacation, just a weekend thing. And the first thing I do is I headed for my patio to water my plants. And it crossed my mind, if plants aren't dying, if they're not growing, they're dying. Oh, yeah. If I'm not growing, I'm dying. And this myth about dying within 3 years of retirement, I guess it takes about 3 years for a couch potato to die. The ugly truth of that, unless they have something fulfilling and meaningful and something to get out of the house or out of bed in the morning.
And do you find that there's a hunger to do so, or do you feel like some are conditioned to just receive and then just kind of and go from there? I think that the thing that comes up for me is that, is there this willingness, or do you feel like more oftentimes than not, baby boomers other baby boomers that you've talked to just kind of resign to, like, well, I guess this is what it's supposed to be?
Well, I'm finding a real strong difference, Adriana, between people who expect more out of life and often have a college degree that they're still learning and still interested in life. And that's a big key. In fact, they call purpose the secret sauce of retirement. Oh, I might need a new purpose other than my job, or my kids are already gone. So, maybe I need a new purpose, something meaningful. And that purpose actually, and volunteering, lengthens our lives. I'm headed for 100. Why not? And the when you're headed for 100, you've usually got to, and make it, you've got a target to hit. And I'll never forget hearing this story of a man that was, every day he was out with a pickaxe and shovel and moving some dirt. And people would often like, why is he doing that? What's he up to? What's this coming to? He was building a road by hand. And it mattered to him because he saw a need and was willing to step up even if he had to do it himself. I think at the time I read the story, he was like 88. And, he doesn't know if he's going to finish it, but why not be active at something? And when you're living from your heart, you don't need somebody to come on, get your job done.
That's true. I'm curious, these principles that you've applied to living with purpose, how has that shaped how you approach your health? You talk about oftentimes you get mistaken for being younger than being 76. So what are some elements that you're doing that have been a difference maker for you?
Well, let me tie into your commercial about water. Water is huge for keeping your skin young and vivacious. So sleep is another one. Before I retired, I would say maybe 5 years before that, I started honoring that I got enough sleep. Like my first job at Boeing, I had to be, that was a second shift job. So I didn't have so much of a time constraint on when I went to bed. But my last job at Boeing was I had to be up at 3:20 in the morning. I needed to be at work at 6 a.m. And so when I got home from work, it was still a lot of daylight left. And yet I told myself if I'm not in bed by 6:30 or 7, if I went to a function, I needed to start at 6:30 or 7 because I'm going to be out of there by 7:30 to get in bed by roughly 8:30. So honoring yourself and what your body needs is huge. But the other thing that made such a difference for me is when I was moving with my job to Tampa, Florida, and had been reading Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And my friends here had cautioned me that don't get homesick and turn around and come back. Give yourself 6 months there. And I started pondering Joshua 1 verses 6 to 9 especially, and there was a couple more in the second chapter of do not be afraid, be of good courage, be of great courage, do not be afraid. And I started stomping my foot and saying, I refuse to live my life based on fear. And that made a big difference in my countenance. There's so many things that you can get insurance for. Your cat and your dog, insurance that don't take any risk. We got to be safe here. And yet one of the principles of volunteering is in fact taking a risk. That something about life pulling your best out of you.
So I want to circle back to when you said fear, and then I want to tie that into, I'm getting the vibe that, as we get older, our bodies are changing. And so I love how you embrace water and you talked about the example. And of course the sleep is supremely important. And was this something that you've always known, or something that you learned and it's not something that's common for counterparts that you see around you?
Well, the biggest change I guess I had to make was letting go of the soft drinks, and the even diet ones. I wasn't huge on diet drinks or soft drinks. Maybe one. I rarely think I had 2 a day, but that whole, I did the Wild Fit diet. That was after I retired. I've lost 55, 60 pounds since I retired. And I'm realizing how much sleep had to do with why we eat instead of sleeping. that, because,
Well, the sugar cravings, well, if we're sleep deprived, the sugar cravings do spike in the human body if a person, man or woman, is sleep deprived. And so that it has a tendency to emerge. And so when you were working, so it sounds like obviously having the shift the way that you did back then, was that contributing? Did you find that just in the job that you had that it just, you didn't have healthy body support habits like eating and sleeping?
Well, I love to make cookies. And
Uh-oh.
I can remember days when I was like in my 20s that I had to run to college class because then, and that's besides working. And so cookies became my meal. And that's probably where it first started going, kind of downhill. But
Okay.
I, well, now, in fact, this last weekend, I have 2-3 books here on the Blue Zone diet and intuitive eating. I haven't gotten a grasp on what, and yet I saw somebody right next to me in a restaurant hold up her menu and say, what does my body want or need today? And what is she doing? So I've seen it in action, but
so you've changed your habits. And then so I'm hearing that as you've gotten older, obviously you're not grabbing for cookies anymore, not in that regard, not like as a common staple food item to consume.
Well, having grown up on a farm and having, raised our own chickens and beef and pork, we were encouraged to eat up because you got to go out there and do some farm work, dig ditches and milk cows and stack hay and all that. So dieting wasn't something that we learned in our family, but starting to let go of these pleasures of handfuls of cookies and the soft drinks. I guess I don't remember a specific change of behavior around that. So
did you feel like your body was craving more foods more whole foods, for example, if there wasn't a specific turning point in your health journey as you were getting older and you were entering retirement? Did you feel
I know a couple times I had heard that if you plateau, that eating 6 apples would take you off the plateau. Now, whether you're supposed to do that in one day or a week, I don't know. But crazy things like that, I did probably when I was in my around 30, 35, I did do a diet from my doctor. And, it did. I remember having green beans on it and I don't remember, there's probably meat on it, but a little more of those veggies, and now I'm when I did the Wild Fit diet since I retired, it's just avocado and spinach and celery and cucumber. And so now I'm challenging myself to have 1 or 2, maybe 3 a week and kind of spread it over a couple of meals. But at the time I started that, I lost 20 pounds and the first principle they taught, Adriana, and you probably know this, is that they said, just pay attention to how food feels in your body. What? How something, does it feel bloated? Does it feel thankful? I'm thankful for giving that to me, That was a big awareness, yeah.
So and there came that change of being mindful. And I do love how you illustrated just the body's reaction. And, it completely different from, say, what comes to my mind is, say, like the instant gratification we as society are used to. And so then the body awareness is something that you recognize. We're going to go ahead and take a commercial break. Stay put. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Thank you so much for watching The Health Revolution. Our show is growing, and it's all thanks to viewers like you. No matter how you found us, please hit the subscribe button so we can stay connected and continue to deliver amazing content to you.
Life is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been shown that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
Share this with your friends and family and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a chemo buddy for life.
We are a buddies network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are chemo buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
And now we want to give special thanks to Biomed Mobile IV for sponsoring the Health Revolution. Biomed Mobile IV is Colorado's top mobile IV therapy service, servicing throughout the state of Colorado. They offer an array of vitamins and above and beyond safety preparation. Biomed Mobile IV, your dedication to health and wellness is exactly what our show is all about. And we thank you for your support. Welcome back to the Health Revolution. My guest today, Sharon Rolph, she is a senior influencer. She's an author. She's a retirement and spark coach. And as we were going to break, Sharon, you were talking about some of the elements that you've implemented for you to, on the physical aspect, that has allowed you to exude vitality. And I know that ageless vitality is a phrase that you stand by. Talk a little bit about you being a retirement and spark coach. So I picture you being able to guide those who are of the similar situation of what do I do in retirement? What are some components that are part of your guidance when you are working with others?
Well, working with myself is the first place to do that, to work with. And the thing that has impacted quite a bit the last couple of years is being willing to love myself. It's not don't get big-headed, but in fact, in my Loneliness to Resilience community that I host weekly, we're talking about loving ourselves. And I remember waking up one morning and something, I guess the day before, had inspired me to love more. And so I remember going to my closet. Do I love my shoes? Do I love my clothes? I mean, that's such a beginning step to recognize that gratitude and loving myself and my things I've chosen to buy and wear. It was pretty interesting to have that thought for 2-3 days about how I'd gotten my closet filled and all that. And, being that I've always been single, loving myself, I've actually had 2 or 3 guys that ask me, do you love yourself? Oh, this is a new question from guys for the gal that they're looking to date, kind of thing. But we had somebody yesterday talk to us about loving self-kindness and self-compassion, and recognizing that maybe the pain in the body is actually trying to talk to you. Are you willing to listen? And
so these are some of the components that being able. So number one, being able to show that self-awareness and then and also being able just answering these questions and being simplistic about this. And what's been the response as you share these tips and lessons with others?
Well, I've been surprised with my loneliness to resilience group that I have several more men than women in that group. That has surprised me. But the fact they're willing to listen and reflect, awareness is the baby step to get this change, transformation to happen. That I believe the men are starting to be aware of how they can participate in transformation for themselves. 2 or 3 of them had shared about in the past being alcoholics or somehow an addiction. And one guy said, well, once he finished the 12 steps for alcohol, he then started another addiction for shopping. So that, and recognizing that there's still room for change and growth in themselves. But I'm not sure I answered your question.
Well, I'm curious if there's certain fundamentals that you have in place that when you guide others, either through a group or in terms of coaching. So for example, for me, someone who coaches women through perimenopause and menopause outside of the show, I preach about the ability to understand how the hormonal changes are happening so that healthcare provider collaboration is number one. 2, the overall food intake, making sure that the nutritional intake is sound, and then strategy of movement. So these are my 3 components that I then expound and get customized with. Are there certain elements that are part of the package of helping others to really redefine this space, especially, debunking what society says is supposed to happen as you get older?
Well, the first debunking is that we've never been told we still need to learn and grow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the middle of 5 kids, and I'm the only one that went to college. And so the people that are probably more willing to open that door and learn more about themselves in their deep wisdom and appreciating the talent and experiences that have come to this point in life, they're much more open to, maybe I could. You mean there's a way to define your soul? But let me mention, distractions are so abundant that there's so many things that we can watch on TV and YouTube and all this stuff. I'm starting to be willing to be rigid about protecting my time and using it intentionally. I want to mention a book that I've been kind of scared to mention to people, but it's all about distractions, and it's called Outwitting the Devil. It was written by Napoleon Hill back in the 30s and has been locked away for 70 years. And if you're not making your own decisions about your life, you're coasting. And coasting people don't want to transform. They don't want to learn. They don't want to change their mind. And flipping that switch to say, I refuse to live my life based on fear and how many things are, don't take a risk and, be safe about that and all that stuff. It doesn't pull the best from us. And the courage to live a life that you design is not the easiest decision to make. But let's start by making a list of 20 things that you love to do. 20 things. Start asking your spirit, your mind, your body, that awareness. Oh yeah, what do I love to do? I don't know, this is kind of a little bit of a side, but I love the smell of fresh mown grass. And now I'm not mowing the lawn usually, but what do you love? It's kind of been dumbed down out of us. Stretching yourself and growing is, we don't expect you to do that. Well, I do. And I want to call This world needs a lot of change, a lot of growth, a lot of hope, a lot of possibilities.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to take a quick break. Stay put. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this.
Hi, this is Clara Capano, your host for Women Winning Their Way, where we talk about how you can create success all on your terms. Join us Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Limelight Network here on E360 TV.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. Welcome back, everybody. My guest today, Sharon Rolph. She is a retirement and spark coach. She is also a senior influencer. We've been talking about redefining retirement. Sharon, where can people find you on social media?
Well, I am quite active on my Facebook page, just Sharon Rolph. And I put lots of words of wisdom out there and to inspire and grow your spirit and challenge you to think. I love helping people think. And on Instagram, I am a Queen of Courage. And every Monday, I do a 2, 3, 4 minute talk on being courageous and being your best and helping you to have some new awareness of loving yourself. In fact, has been kind of a theme quite a bit. My book, Fresh Courage in Retirement, Finding Purpose, Essence, and Fulfillment, it's kind of a do-it-yourself. I ask lots of questions in there because I like to help you think, and it is available on Amazon. Let's see. Then I am doing the Loneliness to Resilience, and when you're on, well, let's see. You can actually search Facebook for Loneliness to Resilience, and there's a landing page that comes up for you to join us. It is free now. We're building a foundation for eventually switching that into a paid gig.
And we'll also have it in the show notes as well.
Okay.
Links for that. And what is the name of your website?
SharonRolph.com. You can also find this effortlessvitality.now.org is also a previous web page that I designed mostly myself, but it is still active. And
you're on LinkedIn too, is that right?
LinkedIn, yes. My VA is doing a lot of good publicity for me for my events, and she just helped me tremendously with the course that I wrote last week, and I got to see the work she did last night. So I feel so good about having a good VA. Virtual assistant.
So I want to make sure that the viewers get a chance to see. So you have a Facebook page where your main one is Rolf's SM, I believe is the handle. And then your other one, which is your business page, is the Effortless Vitality. And so I just want to make the distinction for our viewers to be clear on where to find you. And I know we only have just a couple of minutes left, but where anything new that you have going on this for the rest of the year? Any upcoming?
Well, let me mention too that I have quite a bit of material out on YouTube, and because I started talking about my little art blocks that I make, I started by just saying what this message means to me. So I just held up transform failure into a learning experience. Boy, that's tough to do. But when you turn something into, oh, I learned something, that's the big message from learning and growing. So what I'm working on now is make a marvelous transition into volunteering. It has 9 tips and a lot of the 9 tips came from somebody I interviewed, but I embellished it with how it applied to me, or what lessons have I brought to the tips that my guests shared. So
And I know you've got a lot going on. I know we've got in the interest of time, we've got to keep that in mind. You're housing all of that under your website, of course, and our viewers can see that. Yes. Sharon Rolph, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate your time, energy, and input. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Adriana.
Yes, and for all our viewers, you can find our show website on the internet at thehealthrevolutiontv.com. That's where you can find more information. You can subscribe to our newsletter. You can also email us for any show ideas that you might have. On the upper left-hand corner of your screen, you'll catch our QR code. If it's easier for you to snatch that, please feel free to do so. And then also, let's not forget, every week you can find us on the Achieve TV channel on E360 TV, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and any of the distribution channels you have joined us on: Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, LinkedIn. We recognize you. We see you, and all the social media handles. That's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for joining us today. Until next time, we will see you soon. Take care.